It's the Real Estate Podcast, brought to you by ANZ Home Loans for financial well-beings.
Hey, we are back with your real estate breakfast and the housing property market news as it breaks day by day. We just don't know where tomorrow's news is going to land and how that is going to impact on your current situation. You know, we're not talking about property listings here or trying to sell you anything. It's only real estate insights every week. It is in plain English, easy to understand. Well, at least we hope that it is easy to understand from all of the expert professionals that we talk to week by week around Australia. I see that we're into double digits already. It is a Monday. Hope your weekend was a good one. August the 10th. Now, as the property market softens, this is the big talking point. Opportunities sometimes they appear where few people are really looking at. Now, here's a point in case. If you own an older home on a decent block and the zoning allows higher density development, why don't you just lean over the fence and have a conversation with your neighbour? Because combining two adjoining sites, that can dramatically increase the land's development potential and appeal to developers and builders. It's certainly not a crazy idea. You may discover that together your properties are worth considerably more than they are individually. And sometimes the biggest opportunities begin with that simple conversation. Well, we're about to engage on another conversation as we take you to Adelaide and catch up with our friend there, Mike Drennan. He is from Century 21, and welcome back, Mike, onto the Real Estate Breakfast. Yes, that idea, lean over the fence when the neighbour is mowing the lawns or trimming something and say, hey, I've got an idea here.
Morning, Craig. Thanks for having me on. Yes, absolutely. Thinking outside the box is always a way, I suppose, of adding value and creating opportunities that didn't exist in the past.
Yeah, and you're in one of those areas that has got a lot of opportunities because Adelaide has been one of Australia's standout performers for several years. 2 consecutive months, though, of price declines deserves attention from us this morning because it doesn't signal that the market is in trouble, but it does suggest that the rapid growth phase is giving way to more favourable conditions for buyers. How are you finding all of that at the moment?
I think you stated that quite well. Although the market has declined ever so slightly, it's possible that it's shifted more in favour of purchases, or purchasers have easier conditions when going out and finding a property in the current market. And we also need to be mindful that it is July, which is always a bit of a soft month for property here in Adelaide with bad weather conditions, etc. But yes, softer market conditions, fewer people through the door, it opens. Purchasers have a bit more choice, a bit more time in deciding where they're going to purchase and the conditions they're going to attach to their offers.
You know, I've just thought of this as you're speaking. We talk about vendors, we talk about buyers all the time, we talk about the softer market. One thing that we don't really talk about are those people that are working in the industry, agents, real estate companies. They've got to adjust as well, and sometimes that can be sort of second guessing, like, holy smoke, everything has changed here. You've got to adapt, you go into this, where is my next sale coming from? When are we coming out of this? So there is this whole psychology, isn't it, for people like yourself?
Absolutely. And I suppose when things change, it's important to keep in mind what you can control, what is in your control. We can't control interest rates, we can't control government policy or legislation, but you can control how you're managing the campaign, how open and honest you're being with your vendors and purchasers, keeping everyone well informed to the changes and what's happening in the market, and then working with the buyers you have and trying to create the best outcome you can for your vendor.
Yeah, and we should put this caveat out there, despite the recent pullback in Adelaide, property values remain around 10% higher than this time last year, which really does highlight the market's resilience, because that's what it comes down to. Adelaide is very resilient.
Absolutely. And while sentiment is possibly down and numbers through the opens are lower, all the fundamentals for Adelaide and Adelaide's property market are still there. There's a lot of demand. It's a great place to live. People will continue moving here. Supply is limited to an extent, although government is trying to do things about that. So everything that's necessary to maintain a strong market is still there. We've had one of the strongest property runs in terms of growth that Australia's ever experienced. So it was inevitable that at some time it had to soften.
And one of the more interesting trends too is this growing divide between metropolitan Adelaide and regional South Australia. While Adelaide has eased, regional markets, they continue pushing to fresh highs. No doubt you've got some conversations that you've been having with people. Maybe they were looking at buying, they changed their mind, or perhaps you're representing people that are selling in the regional areas. A lot going on in that space.
Absolutely. We actually listed a property yesterday where the vendors have put an offer in on a property in regional South Australia, subject to the sale of their property selling in Adelaide Metro. And the pricing, it's very competitive. They weren't the only person that had placed an offer on the property, and they had to negotiate fairly hard in order to secure it.
And I always ask this question at the moment in this market, because buyers are looking for these discounts after reading softer market headlines, while many sellers, they're still anchored to yesterday's prices. And until those expectations move closer together, fewer properties, this is the reality of it, are likely to change hands.
Well, this is where I suppose an agent needs to earn their fees and broker the deal and find the middle point between buyers' willingness to pay and the vendor's expectation, with clear communication, presenting the data to all parties, and a skilled negotiator. Hopefully you can get there.
Yes, hopefully you can get there. We are talking to Mike this morning on our Monday. He is in Adelaide. We've got more after this.
From first-time home buyers to seasoned investors to breaking property news, discover the stories behind the real estate. Remember to follow us on any of the podcast platforms so you never miss a real estate podcast. You can follow us on Apple, Spotify and Amazon. Know your property with us.
Now, since we were talking about combining two properties together, I've got a real-world case here with me, because many years ago I bought two properties that were side by side. The interesting part is that neither one of these properties were for sale. What I did, I sold a property. I couldn't find a property that I wanted. So I looked around where I wanted to live. Then I got out of my car and started door knocking. Yep, 99%, maybe 99.9%. It's a no, not interested, door slams. Okay, that's fine. But I did find this house that I would end up living in, and the owner said that they were thinking of selling in 6 months' time. Well, no, I'm buying now. What's your decision? They called me back the next day and said, yes, we accept your price. So I lived in one. I rented out the other with a clear plan to hold both of these properties for 5 to 10 years before developing the site. Unfortunately, and this is the lesson for you, I sold too early. Not long afterwards of me selling, the zoning changed to allow multi-unit developments, and I missed out on a significant uplift in value. So the lesson is definitely property will always reward patience. If your long-term strategy is sound, don't let short-term thinking rob you of future gains. It is a Monday. We are in Adelaide. Mike is with us there. Yeah, that's a bit of a sad story. I don't tell that one too often for obvious reasons, Mike.
Well, I'm impressed with your prospecting skills. Maybe you can give us agents a few tips, because two neighbours right next to one another, that's quite hard to come by. Well done on securing them in the first place.
I should explain that one step further. So there were people that were living in the property that I wanted to move into in terms of owner-occupier, but it was a rental next door, which was on a 1,012 square metre site. It was a big old 50s house that they had converted into two-bedroom units, and then there was a one-bedroom unit out the back. So I inherited 3 rental properties on the one site, and they were actually very keen to move that on. So, yeah, that was a win.
Yeah, well done. And I suppose back to the point, time in the market rather than timing of the market. Property rewards patience, as you so rightly state.
Yeah, for sure. Now, auction activity in Adelaide at the moment tells an important story about market confidence, because with clearance rates falling sharply from earlier highs, it's not necessarily because values are collapsing, and it does come back to what we talked about before, and that is sentiment. Sentiment where you are in Adelaide. How is that playing out?
Where there's a difference in perception of value between buyers and vendors, that's clearly been shown with the auction clearance rates, where people just can't find that middle ground at a figure they're happy to accept. So sentiment's definitely playing a role in that too. And we've seen that at the opens and with our negotiations with buyers.
Yeah, every property cycle, doesn't it? It reaches a point where confidence resets before activity does, and Adelaide may well be entering that phase now, because history suggests that these periods really last for very long, because life events keep driving housing decisions regardless of what the market is doing, whether it's rising or cooling. People just want to get on with life, Mike. And how many of those conversations have you had where somebody has said, okay, yeah, I've been holding out, but hey, I've just got to transact. I've got a family. I've got to get kids into school. I can't wait any longer.
Absolutely. That's a daily conversation. With property, life events happen and people need to buy, they need to sell. And it's worth remembering that buyers and sellers are transacting in the same market. If you sell in this market and you're purchasing in the same market. So that's worth remembering too.
Now, as I mentioned, we're into double figures today. It's the 10th of August, the first time that we have spoken to you this year. Have you got a highlight of this year that's looking back over the handful of months, after Christmas 2025, getting into 2026? Anything like a property transaction or something that you heard? Anything that sticks out for you at the moment?
In terms of advice, what really resonates with me at the moment is working in your area of influence, where you can actually influence things and make a difference rather than your area of concern. There's a lot of noise going on in the market currently, quite a bit of negative headlines in the papers. But if you zoom in and focus in on the activities you can do on a daily basis or for your vendors and the campaign, you're likely to still achieve a good outcome.
Yeah, and I'll just throw in this as well, because there are a lot of new agents joining all the time the real estate industry. Sometimes they are told of a small area, a small farming area that, hey, that is your patch. And it's interesting that new agents go, oh, that's such a small piece, I want something much larger. And that sort of plays into what you're talking about. Just focus granularly on an area and get super focused on transacting, having those conversations, walking around the streets, all of that, because that will help you in the long term. Hey, we'll leave it there, Mike. Great to catch up with you there in Adelaide. All the best for the rest of the year, and keep doing what you're doing.
Fantastic. Thanks so much, Craig. Appreciate you having me on again.
From interest rates rising, a shifting landscape, rentals running hot, clearance rates, a tight rental market, buyer-vendor sentiment, we cover it all every morning from 6 a.m. on The Real Estate Breakfast. We connect you to the best real estate information across Australia. The Real Estate Podcast.